Hello boys and girls, and welcome to something that I'm going to try and do regularly from now on, because some of you may not have books in English at home, or some of you may not want to look at the screen or hear another person's voice. So from now on I'm going to try once a week to read a book in English. I haven't got very many at home, but I'm going to read some of the stories or poems or maybe even things from the newspaper that I have at home for you, so that you can continue to hear things read in English and things that I find interesting. I've got this book, and it's a collection of short stories. And the first one I'm going to read is one that's one of my favourites. And every school I've ever worked in, I've always read this story because it gets people thinking. Now, it's a little bit scary. I would say it's a thriller or a horror story. Okay, I don't know who it's from. I think they were all written by a guy called Chris Firth. What's it called when somebody writes a book? That's correct. He is the author. Okay, this story is called Hatbox. My Auntie Sarah never drives anymore. Not since the incident with the nun and the hatbox. She will not even climb into a car, and she starts shaking just at the thought of driving. She used to drive everywhere in a big Rover, a beautiful car that was her pride and joy. Every day she drove to work and back again, a journey that took about 45 minutes. It was a journey that went from Ilkley to Leeds. They are two places in Yorkshire, in the north of England. Sarah had made a rule never to pick up hitchhikers. Do you know what a hitchhiker is? It's a person, sometimes you see them, they stand at the side of the road and they might do this because they want a free lift. They want to get into your car for free. So Sarah had made a rule never to pick up hitchhikers or people trying to thumb a lift. Basically, because there were so many lunatics about these days. You don't find many hitchhikers between Leeds and Ilkley, but one wet, windy day, as she set home from Leeds, Sarah saw an old nun. Suora. Sarah saw an old nun thumbing a lift by the road. Feeling sorry for the old dear, who was being buffeted and bashed by the wind and the rain, she broke her rule and pulled over to the side of the road to see if she could help. "Where are you heading, sister?" "Ilkley, my dear," croaked the nun in a voice that sounded rather hoarse. Hoarse means when you've got a sore throat. "So am I. Hop in," Sarah said to the nun. It was all done in a few seconds. The nun was in the car, the doors were closed, and they were pulling away onto the road again, back into the traffic. The nun seemed huge now that she was sat in the car next to Auntie Sarah. She had no luggage apart from a velvet hat box. And the nun put the hat box down by her feet and then hunched towards the window by the door, her face slightly angled away so that Aunt Sarah couldn't see. Now that sounds a bit suspicious to me, doesn't it to you? If someone is hunched over and looking away, seems a bit suspicious. "Bad night for travelling, isn't it?" said Aunt Sarah. She was trying to have a conversation, thinking that the nun would have something interesting to say. Grunted the nun. "Have you been trying to get a lift there for very long?" said Aunt Sarah to the nun. Grunted the nun again. Oh well, don't worry, we'll soon be in Ilkley. At least it's nice and warm in the car. Grunted the nun again. Then she shuffled her seat, turning away from Auntie Sarah even more, not interested in making conversation in the slightest. Then there was silence in the car. They were out of Leeds and onto the moor road, and the nun coughed. It was a strange type of cough. A smoker's cough. And Sarah was sure that she could smell tobacco. She thought it was really odd that a nun would be a smoker. She glanced at the nun's hands that were clasped in front of her. The hands were huge, gnarled things, hairy hands. Her eyes jerked to the floor. Instead of seeing tiny, dainty female feet, Auntie Sarah saw massive feet. Muddy brown boots. Auntie Sarah didn't want to panic, so she drove on, trying not to think about things too much. She sneaked a glance at the reflection of the nun's face in the car windscreen. The nun's eyes were blazing with madness, and there was a strange smile curled around her face. A face that Aunt Sarah definitely thought had a bit of stubble. There was no doubt about it. This wasn't a nun, but a madman. Sarah tried to remain calm, though, although her stomach was churning around like a washing machine. She said nothing. She just continued to drive. And as she lifted her foot off the accelerator, clunk, 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 she realised that she was running out of petrol. Damn! It's either the petrol or some electrics. Oh, we'll have to get out. She slowed down to the side of the road and stopped. Oh, heck, do me a favour, sister. Nip out and can you just check? As the nun left the car, Aunt Sarah closed the door and put her foot on the gas and drove away really, really quickly. As soon as she got back to Ilkley, Sarah went straight to the police station to report the incident. It was a bit strange, Aunt Sarah thought, that there would be a man dressed up as a nun. So Sarah drove to the police station, and she was shaking with shock as she climbed out of her car, as she realised the nun had left the velvet hat box in the car. Sarah lifted the hat box and went to take it into the police station. It was really heavy. She put it on the front of her car and she made sure that her doors were locked. Despite being a bit wet and a bit muddy from the nun's boots, the box looked lovely with a little golden clasp. It was obviously very expensive, and Sarah couldn't resist having a little sneaky peek. She undid the clasp and lifted the lid. Ah! Screams of horror shrilled out into the night. When the police ran out from the police station, they found Aunt Sarah slumped over the pavement where she had fainted. The box was still on the car, the lid open. Inside the box was And it doesn't say anything else. Inside the box was ... What do you think was in the box and why? Why don't you tell me in the comments or something like that? Take care. I hope you've enjoyed this. Bye-bye.